Welcome to the Ambitious Coach Lab, powered by 90. I'm your host, Dr. Cam Lawson. Each week, we explore the real tactics, tough conversations, and breakthrough moments that drive coaching success. Let's jump into today's episode. Well, hello, friends. We have got Roy Castleman with us today. He is an entrepreneur, a tech strategist, a wellness innovator, and a business coach on a mission to help business owners regain control by blending business operating systems, AI integration, and holistic performance strategies like breathwork and mindset training. Roy's approach is both grounded and forward thinking, helping leaders build businesses that run smoothly so they can live better, healthier lives. So, welcome to the show, Roy.
You're very much, Cam. Thank you, Cam. Lovely to see you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am very excited about this conversation. We've known each other for, I think, probably a little over a year, maybe a year and a half now. And we connected on LinkedIn. We've had many conversations. And I am so intrigued with your just value proposition, your setup of how you approach business coaching, of kind of combining the personal and the professional. So I am so excited to jump in. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and how you got to where you're at to today?
My entrepreneurial journey starts, as many do, taking a bit of a chance. So, the first job I had in the UK was actually for an IT company, and my brother, he's a Mensa person, so he's got lots of brains, more than I have. I got the looks, he got the brains, right?
Hey, there you go.
And he said to me, "IT is great. I love IT." I just knew how to turn a PC on. So he said to me, "Roy, why don't you do," yeah, he was in South Africa, I was in London. He said, "Why don't you do this IT thing?" So I said, "Yeah, okay, well, just send me your CV." So, he sent me his CV, and back in those days, we had fax, right? It wasn't none of this email stuff. They had fax, so he sent me his CV, and luckily his name is Ian, my name is Roy. So I got the whiteout, the Tipex, I Tipexed out his name, yeah, and I printed my name in, yeah, and sent it out to 10 different agencies in London, and I found myself with my first, interview. Yeah, so off I went to this interview in my newly acquired very cheap suit, and, I spoke to the guy, Peter McHugh, computers in the city. And he said to me, "Well, Roy, if you go to this customer and this customer and this customer and you fix their problems, then you can have the job." So I was like, okay, interview turned into a job. And so off I went to Merlin Biosciences, amazing company. Spoke to George, got there, and I'm, "George, what's the problem?" And he shows me this PC, and I'm like, I have no idea. "George, could I just use your toilet, please?" So off to the toilet, pulled out my Nokia phone, those banana ones. "Ian,
Yep.
what do I do now?" So, I spent, 2.5 months on the toilet. So my clients, I don't know what they thought. But then, yeah, fast forward to 2017, and I'd been running IT companies for a couple of years by then. I started in 2002, and I got the chance to acquire Computers in the City. So yeah, that's how I got in there. And yeah, as I say, I started my first one in 2002. I started my next one in 2009. I then went through the process of acquiring an adventure center, which is indoor surfing and indoor skydiving, right before COVID. And I tell you, that was where I learned the most. That was really where I learned the most. So yeah, things not to do, things not to do.
There you
So,
those tend to be the best lessons. At least, it would maybe they're the most dramatic. Maybe that's why we like them. I don't know. But
and there are lessons you can't learn in a university, right? So
hmm. It's so
you,
true. I mean, there's tremendous value to academic conceptual knowledge, right? But there is something about, and I think especially in the lane that you play in with business coaching and working with entrepreneurial leaders, there's something about walking in those shoes where you can understand the battles and the challenges and the losses and failures. You can speak directly to that. That probably makes you that much more attractive as a coach and growth advisor, if you will.
2017, I had 2 IT companies running, multi-million, not massive, but yeah, enough that I felt reasonably successful. But I had 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, yeah, and no time for me, and my mind was a mess. My body was getting to be more of a mess. And along comes this guy, and he makes me this amazing offer to acquire a third company, and I was just like, I can't, I just can't.
Mhm.
There's no ways I can do it. And at that point, somebody else had walked in the door and handed me Traction, the book, and and said, we should do this. So we went about finding a coach and spent a lot of money on a coach, a lot of money on a coach, and that changed my the way I do business and how I do business, and it really gave me a good solid grounding, that there is another way, and I think so many business owners go through the entire journey without this knowledge, and that really is one of the key factors in what we do at All the Power and how we try and help people. So that was the first piece, and I went from working 14 hours a day every day, and now those 3 IT companies run themselves, and I work 5 hours a week, doing that, and that's opened up my journey into this, this venture. And really this venture for me, I wanna help business owners live the life they love, right? I love traveling, I skydive, I free dive, I do all sorts of other crazy things, get into cold exposure. The things that happen as we go through life is through our business life is we really get busier and busier and busier. We work in the business and we get so busy, right? And then when we're in the business and we're so busy, what actually happens from there is we start losing our clarity, we lose our focus, we lose everything, and we can't see a way in which we can actually get time back. And this is kind of where the bigger concepts of All the Power come from. Firstly, we use AI, which is now so powerful, to help business owners get some time back. Secondly, we then look at wellness techniques, whether that be breath work, cold exposure, meditation, or whatever works for them. It doesn't need to be anything too far, but how do you just get some of you back, right? Because a business owner that is really fundamentally grounded and happy and not thinking about the future and worrying about the past and all these things, they're able to make much better decisions every day. They really are able to be much more powerful every day. And then we layer on the business operating system and the clarity just comes in. Because so many of the challenges that I have when I walk into people, I just don't have the time to do this right. It sounds amazing. It really sounds great, but where am I going to get the time to do it? And that's really how we can wrap this together. Give them some time, give them some of themselves back again, and then let's now work on the business and grow the business to what you believe it can be.
You have such a clear picture of that as you're describing that, not only your offering stack and your value prop, but you have a very clear understanding of who you're talking to. And when we were first talking about coming on the show, you mentioned your persona or whatever you want to call it, Mark, I think is what you had named him. Can you talk a little bit about how that has shaped how you get clarity and understanding? I mean, I think you even said, like, "I talk to Mark when I'm talking to somebody." Can you talk a little bit about how that came into conception?
Well, I've done a lot of marketing over the years, and then marketing has been one of my strong points. My IT companies, they sit at the top of Google, and when you get to the top of Google, you think that's it, it's all just going to flow in. I'm gonna be rich. That's it. Yeah. And IT is probably one of the least sexy things in the world to sell. Right? Everybody has an IT guy. And unless the IT guy does something really wrong, he's staying there, and you're not gonna budge him. And so I've had to dig into a lot of different marketing plays and what works. And I realized very early on in life that people buy from people. Right? People really buy from people. And you have to build rapport and you have to get to know people and you have to respect and understand them and listen to them. Yeah, and then people are interesting. That's why we do this stuff, right? Life is great. Meet interesting people. And in order for me to actually be able to talk to the people that I want to talk to, in my marketing messages, I came to realize that I've studied, I've learned lots of different things, and looked at all the masters out there, and I've come to realize that actually, yeah, through their trainings as well, if you're not talking to your ideal customer profile, your ICP, your persona, or whatever it is you call it, if you're not talking to him in all the noise that's out there, you get lost. So many people I speak to, so many business owners I speak to, they say, and coaches and other organizations, they say, well, I said, who do you serve? Who is it that you talk to? Who's your ICP? And they go on and they say, everybody, my service is for everybody. And I'm like, yes, your service is for everybody, but you can only talk to one person. Yeah, if you can only talk to one person, who would you talk to? How would you dig into that? How would you really find the kernel of that person? So I basically talked to myself 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because my journey is what I offer people, My journey, trying to avoid the pitfalls that I've fallen into, trying to bring in the shortcuts that I found and all these kind of things. That's what I love about Boss Up. The Boss Up system, the 90 system, is that we can bring our own element of the coaching into it. It's not just a prescribed simple system. And this idea that if you're really digging into your ICP, your person, a lot of people say, okay, let's work out my ICP. Well, it's a company, it's got 50 to 60 people in it, it's got 2 million turnover, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, and I'm like, okay, fine. That might be your niche, that might be, but who is your ICP? Who are you talking to? And then we come up with Mark. You know, Mark. Mark is 45 years old. He lives in Boston. He is quite successful. He's serving people, in his business, with something that he's passionate about. He spent, 10 or 15 years building this business, and he actually knows, that his business is, almost it's cost him his wife because the family, the relationship broke down because he was so focused on his business. He doesn't get to see his kids as much as he would like to, partially because of that relationship fail, and partially because he's always too busy. Yeah, and Mark really just wants to get his life back again. He came into business so that business, could help him have a better life. He didn't come into business to be a slave to it. Now I can talk to Mark, right? Now I can really kind of have a communication with Mark because it's one-sided initially. But if I send my message out there and say, "Oh, yeah, I do business operating systems," because what we do as humans is we get so excited about the stuff we learn, right? We go and learn a whole bunch of stuff, and we're like, okay. Yeah, with my first IT company, my first website that I dove into, back when websites were before Google, huh? I'd learnt about all these PCI boards and the different things in the motherboards and the memory and and this was just great. And I made a whole website about this. And it probably took me 5 years to realize that my customers, they just wanted the damn thing to work. Yeah, they didn't care about anything about that, and I was so excited about that. Yeah, and so when we start this journey of reaching out to people as coaches or as business owners, we can't talk to what we know because so often it doesn't matter. We have to talk to what their pain point is. What is something that's emotionally affecting them? How am I going to talk to Mark and say, Mark, how would it be if I could actually give you, 4 or 5 hours back in the day so that you can connect with your kids? So that you can actually, not be thinking about your business all day when you're with your kids. Yeah,
Mhm.
would that work for you? Would that be nice? I'm not going to talk about AI. I'm not going to talk about business operating systems or wellness or anything like that. I'm just going to talk to his problem. Right? And as I talk to his problem, as I go through and say, right, well, now I've been where you are. I know the pain you're suffering. I've sat there with my waiting for my daughter to come and visit me. And her not coming because when she does come to visit me, she doesn't really feel like she connects. Yeah, I've been in that pain, and this is what helped me. Right. So now I can have a real connection with him, and we can be humans.
Yeah, it's deeply human in the way I think there's a model with the story brand with Donald Miller, who wrote Building a Story Brand, great book. But he talks about how everyone there's this external problem that I'm facing. The typically it kind of stays on the business level, right? But then there's a it's more of a internal problem, I think is how Don describes it. It's that it gets into that emotional level. So you're doing that work where you're getting down to that emotional, "Hey, I got into business to have a better life, but I don't even see my kids anymore."
Yeah.
That's on the emotional level, and that's where a lot of decisions are made. And then he talks the third one is this philosophical problem. Like, "Hey, I got into business, like, it should be better than this. There's a better way," or, kind of a just overarching worldview type thing, like, "Hey, there should be a better way." And so I think you tap into that as you're talking to and number 1, humanizing it, but number 2, getting much deeper to where the true pain lies for that individual. Doesn't matter about business operating systems, it doesn't matter about AI. Those are very important, but that's not why they're going to make the decision. And you with your persona have figured that out and you can talk to that both in your marketing messaging, but also I would assume on kind of a one-to-one basis where you're interacting. So it applies in so many different ways.
I sat down with a client, a new potential client a few days ago, and you wouldn't believe it, his name's actually Mark. Yeah.
No way.
I have 3 on my books at the moment that are called Mark,
That's how
and
you know it's on. You're spot on.
and we spoke down and we just spoke about, really life. Yeah. You can't sit down. I go into a sales meeting, right? And it's a sales meeting. We all know it's a sales meeting. But if I'm not gonna connect with you on a human level, you're never gonna buy from me. Yeah.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen. Yeah, and this is, for me, this is half of the joy and the fun of it, is to learn about other people and to understand, where they are, and maybe they've got a problem I haven't seen before, and I can, have some fun figuring it out. But that first connection is just like, how do I get to know you? How do I actually get to know, about your 4-year-old son, who's fiddling with all the things, and how do I get to know with, what drives you, and what do you enjoy doing? Because
Mm,
that's the spice of life, right?
yeah.
That's what makes life, this job, especially getting up, worth doing. Because I know when I go in and I make a connection and I understand the person, I actually know how deeply what I'm gonna do with them helps them at the end result. Yeah, it's not just, "Okay, we're gonna have a figures, oh, they're gonna look great and staff are gonna be happy." It's they can go and spend some time with the kids, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's as a person, that's what drives me. Yeah, and that's why I come back to live the life you love, right? If you can live the life you love, what a blessing, right? Yeah, so
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit on your business development strategy, right? I mean, you've done a lot with building out content. That's been a primary way you've built out courses. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then even some partnerships along with that of how you structured your business development. I always call them levers that you pull that you want to get. You have quite a few and a very clear funnel or journey that people can go through to work with you. Can you explain a little bit about that?
yeah, for sure. I think, as we go through this journey, we can look at coming in the door and saying, "Right, I'm gonna charge you 5 grand a month for the service." Okay. And now what happens, we go in, we're not connected, we're not engaged necessarily. You can see I have a value, but, you don't know me. You really don't know me. And it's a big ask, a big stand. So, what I wanna do, I wanna make sure that I touch on all the different areas. Firstly, I don't wanna just help the people that can go and, pay me 5 grand a month. Right? I want to help the people, that don't have any, a chance of doing that, and I want to actually get them to be able to pay me the 5 grand a month, because then I've done my job right. Then I really have done
Right,
my job right. So my first, we talk about ladders. Russell Brunson, really decent to value ladders and how they work. And so, what should your value ladder be? Yeah, and for me, I have free content that I curate and I put out on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and all the other channels that I can find. Yeah, podcasts and the like. And then, it's okay. So here's free content. If people then get interested, they then join me in my funnel. And my funnel is, I'll generally bring them into a webinar, and the webinar will be, I will give them value. And the first piece of value I give them is, right. The first part of our 3 things is AI. How am I going to get you to come and use AI correctly? And people will come down and they'll sit there and they'll say, yeah, but I'm already using ChatGPT. I'm using it for my emails, and my job then is to blow their minds in 60 minutes, right? Because you can use the AI for one element of what you do, or you can use it. Our internal company rule is, if I'm working harder than my AI, I'm not doing it right. Okay. And as soon as we get to a problem, is, can AI solve this? Yeah. Can AI do this better? And I will come back to something on AI in terms of how people think about it. But so we bring people into this webinar and we're like, okay, so here we are. Come and join the webinar. We'll give you some things. And they leave there with a valuable, set of tools they can use, whether it be ChatGPT, Opus Pro, NVIDIA, any of the other, tools that are out there. I'll give them a structure, a framework of how they can go out and use this. Then at the end of that, I'll offer them to join my community. So I have an AI community. We run that, specifically in the evenings in the UK, so we can service people in the US as well. So people come in and they'll join at a very low price point. Okay, and as they come into the community, they'll have a whole bunch of, every session is recorded. Every session has a lesson on it and an exercise. And these are all, like the current one we're doing is an 8-week course on how to build flow into your business. Flow being people coming in. So how do I get clients in? Working your ICP, working your UVP, your unique value proposition. using storytelling as a mechanism to engage people, and then we drive all the way through that. So all of that content is there. The next content might be looking at your vision or looking at your goals or whatever it is. We're using AI we're using AI to actually get the business functions done more easily. As we go through that process and as they learn, there's something important is happening. I'm building a relationship with them. And even if I've got 20 or 30 people on the call, I'm still building a relationship with them. Yeah. Now, if they then want to come and talk to me and they can join me for my once a week a program, Elevate 360, which so once a month program where I'll join them for a low fee, £500 a month at the moment, yeah, for one session per month. But they'll get access to the videos, they'll get access to more training, we'll give them guidance, they can email me or my team, and we'll build them up and we'll get them to the next level. Or then they can come to 2 days a month, and then they can come to 4 days a month. And that's a one-on-one training. Then after that, they say, "Listen, you need to come and help me with my team." Then, okay, now we go into the 5 grand a month, we'll come in and help them, right? And, so we look at all of these things, this is the bottom level. The step up from that is gonna be that you can come and join my mastermind community, which is slightly higher level, more looking at the boss up stuff or the business operating stuff and the 90 stuff, but also looking at automation in business. How do I use AI and automation together to really streamline things? So there's a very clear value ladder in how people have their journey with me. And that journey, ideally, I want to get to the end of the year, and I want it to be turning over, 5 times as much, and be able to go out and live by themselves. They shouldn't need me. And then it's just an executive coaching piece. So, okay, Roy, we have these challenges, and but we go through the annual and the quarterly meetings and keep them on track, and go from there. But you can't. From my own experience, I can't walk in the door and say, right, here's a 10 grand piece of work we're going to do for you, and then have to sell it. Right? I would rather take them through that journey. I'd rather have them go through that journey, and get to know me. Because the other side of it is, if this person doesn't gel with me, I don't want to work with them. Yeah, quite frankly, I really don't want to work with them. I only take on personally, I only take on 5 clients at that level. Right? Some of my team will take on 10. Yeah, but then, I live in the life I live. I have no interest to go and spend, all the time, working 14 hours a day. I've done that, and I don't wanna do it anymore. But the added benefit of that is my AI community, you know, it's currently got about 25 people. It's been running for 2 weeks, so for 2 months. I intend to get that up to 1,000 people by the end of the year, okay? If that's a $50 a month, subscription, yeah, that's 50 grand a month.
Yeah.
And I'm serving my community. I'm helping my business owners. I'm giving valuable information, and I'm able to touch more lives like that. So, does that answer your
Yeah.
question?
It does. No, that's great. What I love about that approach is that it meets people where they're at, right? I think it's a little presumptuous for a coach to come in and just expect that they're at that high ticket level right from the start. They may not quite be there, or they may not quite understand that they need to be there. And so you have lots of different ways that you have them come in and number one, build rapport, which I think is huge. Like, I mean, people buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? They have to have a level of trust in you. But then also, I think the value add, you're leading with that. There are free versions of that, then there are some that provide more of a community. And then as people get in, they're like, this has transformed my organization. I want more of this. Do you find that that is naturally the flow that it goes? I mean, how does it work from a true lead generation for your top level services through that funnel? I mean, do you have success stories from that?
Every day. Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by having the price points where I know people are able to meet me, meeting them where they're at, and having that understanding. We're only talking initially, about the low level basic training that we have to go through, right? Just have a basic understanding of business operating systems. I'm not giving away a huge amount of, yeah, content. Well, I'm giving content, but I'm not giving away, how to do it in the depth of that,
Mm,
simply because people aren't ready for that yet. They have to go through the learning stages, and then when they get to the point and say, "Listen, actually, I'm trying to work out for my numbers for my company, whether it's a scorecard or KPIs, whatever that is. I'm really struggling with that. Can you come and help?" And then we can sit back and we say, "Okay, let's go back to organizational charts. Let's make sure, that everybody has roles and responsibilities properly worked out. Let's make sure we know what the numbers are and how those numbers actually relate to people." Yeah, and those conversations, you can't have those conversations at the low level. You have to have them at a higher level down the line. But
yeah,
to get there, you might be a 5-man business or a 3-man business, and you're struggling to get your momentum in. I come along, we give them a marketing play that works. They speak to the ICP, they know what the EVP is, and they move forward. In 3 months' time, it's okay. They know what I'm doing because every time I'm going on a call, I'm saying, "This is what I'm doing." Okay, well, now I've got a problem. "Oh, what's that?" "Well, I've got too many leads coming in. I'm selling too much stuff, and I'm not able to deliver it properly." "Okay, well, let's go to the next stage." Right?
mm,
Now I know they've got, 10 grand in the bank. Right? Yeah, because I've made sure that they have,
yeah,
and I don't feel bad about going and saying, "Right, give me your grand's inheritance so I can tell you what to do." Yeah,
yeah,
it's yeah. I need to be able to wake up with myself in the morning, right? Yeah, and I need to be able to. I've had so much experience in business where people just go in and take, and that's not what this is about. This is go in and grow, yeah, and then partake, right? So yeah, a different piece. And I mean, to your point, I did a lot of networking in my days, and going out to networking events, and there were 1,000 coaches out there. There's every networking event has got 15 coaches, or 20 or 30. Yeah, and they'll walk up to you and say, "Hey, how are you doing? I'm a business coach. I can help you get your business up." And I'm like, "Okay." So the first question I always ask them is, "Give me your last year's financial accounts." Yeah. Uh, 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 uh. I said, "Well,
mm,
I need to know what your turnover was, what your gross profit was, what your net profit was. Yeah. And then we can start talking." So, "Well, I can't give you that." Well, so unless you've done more than I've done, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk to you. Yeah, and that just flummoxed. I've never had anybody give me the information. And anybody wants, they're welcome to come and ask. Yeah, and that's really, I think, to your point. So many people just go out there and they push and they push and they push, right, without really having that value add. Yeah,
mm,
because at that point, when somebody asks me that, I'll say, "Yeah, but also ask me about my failures because I've learned more in my failures than I have in my successes." Yeah. So,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit on your you have a very distinct offering, right?
yeah.
And you have, I mean, we've alluded to it already. I mean, there's the business operating system part of it. There's the AI part of it. And then there's also the personal, holistic, I would call even health aspect. Can you talk about how you have packaged all of that up into this comprehensive offering? I mean, you have a even you mentioned it before, it's a very logical flow that people go through. So can you talk a little bit how you came into that conclusion?
Let me tell you a story. I'd acquired this massive project, right? I was running IT companies. I acquired this adventure center. Inside this adventure center, a wind tunnel, a indoor wave, a flow rider, a hotel, 2 restaurants, a swimming pool, a gym, a jump off a tower, 130-foot tower, jump off of that, a climbing wall, and a range of other bits, soft play area. And I'd come into it literally before COVID. Yeah, and I walked in the door. It was stuff I'm passionate about. I love all this stuff. And, I just kept on pushing and pushing. COVID, they closed us down, they opened us, they closed us. Yeah, I was throwing millions of pounds at it from my other companies to try and keep it running. Yeah, and I just got to a point at one stage where it was just too much. Yeah, and I got up one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and I walked outside. I was in the hotel, walked outside, climbed up the 130-foot tower. Yeah, and I was going to jump off. Uh, and I was like, okay. Yeah, and I'd been doing the Wim Hof breathing, I'd been doing some breath work, and I'm just gonna do a bit of breathing. So I did a bit of breathing, and that was enough to bring me down, yeah, and that's why it's so important that business owners actually understand their mental health is the first key thing. Yeah, nothing's worth it, right? Yeah, and to the point that I had to walk away from that business because, yeah, that was the biggest lesson I learned was sometimes it's not gonna work, yeah, and you have to walk away. And as somebody that always does gets, yeah, the outcome that they, yeah, they're going for, that, yeah, almost broke me by itself. Yeah, but
Yeah.
ending up in hospital for 11 days with a burst colon from stress, yeah, and, you know, going through this whole thing, this has given me such an appreciation for mental wellness, for mental fortitude, but also for understanding how we can get there. Yeah, and, yeah, this journey is so common for so many business owners. Right. Yeah, we bring ourselves into a whole, yeah, it's such a lonely place to be a business owner. You know, your family doesn't wanna know about it, your friends don't wanna know about it, nobody can actually get excited about the things
Mm,
because you've always had 5 things to be excited about. So, yeah, understanding that this wellness is so important, I went out, I did my Wim Hof instructors, I did other breathwork courses, I do meditation courses, and mindfulness courses, and slowly got a really good understanding of how it's affected me. Right. And from there, I'm now able to coach and bring people back to that piece. And yeah, I only employ coaches that have an understanding of how important that is, so that they can sign more people and bring them in.
mm,
And yeah, then we go to the other stage of it is okay. So well, I don't have the time. I really don't have the time to do that, right? Yeah, and I've been there, up at 6 in the morning. You're working, and then you look again. It's 11 at night, right? And you look at your list, and you haven't got anywhere. I said, okay, let's fix some of that first. Yeah, because you've only got so much energy in the day. Yeah, if I put something else in front of you, there's no ways, you know, that you're gonna be able to do it because there's no energy. So I have to give you something in that first. So the AI, it's just so powerful now. I've spent 2 years digging into AI to the depths. I'm an IT guy. I started using ChatGPT, and would it work? Nah, would it damn. No, so I've had to learn all these different tools and tricks. Yeah, and I just see the gap growing between what people, yeah, or know and how far AI is going away. Yeah, and it's just growing and growing. So now I need to make that gap shorter. So right, but just let's focus on what you need for your business. Where can I save you the most time? Let me talk about your emails. If I can have your emails sorted out, categorized, put into folders, yeah, and then put your drafts written already for you in a draft folder, so that's what you needed to do in the morning. Will I save you an hour a day? Yes. Okay. So if I save you an hour a day, could we spend half an hour doing breath work in the morning?
mm.
Yes. Okay. Now let's work from there. Right? Yeah. You can't go and work with somebody that's overstressed, overrun, doesn't know where he's going, yeah, has no capacity to take any more in. Yeah, you can't put more pressure on them. Yeah, consciously I can't do that. And that's where our whole range comes. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, that's where
No,
we.
absolutely. I mean, it's very what I and I appreciate you sharing all of that. It's deeply personal to you
It
because
is.
it's from your experience, and you're not alone in that because you have mapped it out to, tying it back to your persona Mark. That's probably part of it. You alluded to some of that, but it's an experience that you have been through, and that I think that's what makes it resonate because it was so deep with you. And I was at the point of breaking, and these things helped me get through that.
Yeah,
And I think that speaks so loudly. And then you start to build in, okay, we get that in check. And then we start to buy some time back, which is going to take some stress off. And then we build in the business operating system, which makes the business less dependent on the owner. If you boil it down to that, that's typically what it does. It's operating itself,
yeah,
right? And so that's, I think, where it's this, I would almost call it this secret formula that you found that is your experience.
yeah,
And now you're helping others do it.
yeah. And that's yeah. Remember the goal. Business owners are amazing, huh? Yeah, they are the economy. They are, yeah, yeah, they solve problems. They go out and they solve problems. They see a problem and they say, "I'm gonna go and solve that problem. I know how to solve that problem. I'm gonna solve that problem for others." Yeah, so they go out and they do that quite selflessly. Quite often they solve a problem, and then they go in a hole, and they deserve to live the life they love. Yeah, and that's really kind of that's my job. Yeah, that's my mission is to go and give them that.
Really, You have weaved in this beautiful story of your life into your offering, and that's not something that I had kinda tied when we first talked, but hearing you talk about that, I think that's why it's so powerful, and if I could encourage and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, but I think that's probably one of the missing pieces with a lot of business coaches is they are trying to just base it off of features in their service offering, or they're trying to go at these benefits that you get, whereas your story resonates because it's that very thing. It's a narrative, it's a story that you've weaved in and been able to find that, and I think that's truly why it resonates. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think every coach should try and build his story bank, right? And yeah, I work with my clients. I build a story bank. What is a story bank? You ask me. Well, Russell Brunson starts talking about some of this, but a story bank is the things that you've been through in your life, that have resonated in one way or the other, that you can actually give to people in the form of a story. Yeah, I have 30 or 40. I've got hundreds of stories, but I've got 30 or 40. Yeah, and this is a work in progress that I'm pulling out that really resonate with people. That I share that, actually people lean forward and they're like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, shit." Yeah, that they feel some emotion, they feel happy, they feel sad, they feel whatever it is. Because, once you say to somebody, "Yeah, come along with me and do this," right? Yeah, let's just I'll give you an example, just a simple one. Right. I used to hate meetings. I really used to hate meetings. I would go into a meeting every day, yeah, and I'd sit there in front of my team, and from my team, I would get a whole bunch of questions, and I'd be firefighting all these different things, yeah, and then, we'd get to the end of the meeting, and everybody would run away, and I'd be a bit drained, right? And then 2 weeks later, I'd go into the meeting and have exactly the same meeting. Yeah, and in meetings, I used to dread meetings. And then along came 90 and the operating system and going through understanding how to actually set up a meeting, yeah, and now people come in, we are nice and relaxed, we have a segue, we break into it, everyone comes in, we go through any major issues, we go through any headlines and things we need to, we go through a couple of other stages, we then do the to-dos, which everyone has their to-dos from last week, and then everyone can see if people are doing what they need to or not, yeah, and then we offer to help them, so it's never a criticism, it's bringing people together. And then we dump that all down to issues, and we spend meat of the meat of the meeting into the issues. Yeah. And I walk out the meeting, I get an email into my mailbox that says, "This is what we need to do," and I never have the same meeting again. Isn't that something you'd like to do? So this is a story, right? I'm not just saying you should use my meeting system because it's great because of this. Look at this stuff. Yeah, you just bring a story into it. Yeah.
Yeah, do you find that I'm intrigued with this, I'm stuck on this for some reason. And this is just fascinating. But do you find that I mean, do you journal or how are you kinda recollecting those stories or those moments that you can then bring into conversations with other people? What is your process for that?
I remember a lot. I did spend quite a lot of time with ChatGPT, saying, "Right, I wanna go through and I want you to ask me questions about my journey, yeah, and I want
Mm,
you to really dig in." So I went through my first job, my very first job, I worked on a mushroom farm in South Africa. And, from this mushroom farm, I would at the end of the day, not magic ones, just more normal ones. From the end of the day, I would finish my day at 11 o'clock. And I'd first of all, a whole bunch of friends would say, "Bring me some mushrooms, bring me some mushrooms." And so from there, I started taking a few bags of mushrooms. And then when I started that, I was earning 1,500 rand a month as my salary. But within as soon as I started doing that, I started my entrepreneurial brain kicked in. And I was like, "Okay, great." Yeah, and then from there, I started taking more and more and more mushrooms, and within 3 months, I had a company turning over 10,000 rand. Yeah. So
wow.
I take experiences like that, and I say to ChatGPT, "Right, now I'm helping people. I want you to act as a storyteller. Now I want you to act as someone who can really dig out the story. Maybe you're gonna be a ghostwriter for me. And I want you to understand that Elevate 360 is my plan, Mark is my ICP. So what things are gonna resonate with them?
Mhm.
Now I want you to ask me questions and ask me back and forth." And we go through and we have, a strategy sessions where I dig out what I need to dig out. And then at the end of that, I've got a list of, okay. here's 15 things from that one story that resonate at various points.
Well, that's such a great use case, because so many people use AI as, "Write me this email," and it will take its collective knowledge, and it will write a halfway decent email. But when you're partnering with it as almost your strategic partner, where you're allowing it to ask you questions to pull more out of you, what an excellent use case to be able to find those stories that were probably hidden deep down in your brain's memory,
Yeah.
but ChatGPT, an AI tool, is helping you get that out.
Yeah. And there's so much power in so many things like that. I will, I'll take videos that I've taken from years ago, put them onto some of the other tools, get a transcript. I'll pop it in here and say, right, here's a transcript. I can take this podcast for example, and I can go put the transcript into the Descript, edit it out, put it into ChatGPT and say, right, I want you to help me here write 150 posts for my Twitter around all these things on there. Yeah, and just, make sure it speaks to my ICP mark. Make sure it's impactful, make sure you're acting as an expert in Twitter. Yeah, and then boom, I've got, literally weeks and weeks and weeks of content.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's so much you can do with
Yeah.
AI, but you need to know how to talk AI. Yeah,
Mm,
and you need to know also, it's not just ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Copilot. It's not just Opus or all the other tools. They all have a very, you a very impactful purpose in one element of the journey. You have to know which things to use and which elements, because you buy one that's X amount of money saying it can do everything, but really it can only do one part right. Yeah.
right.
And this is a moving goalpost, right? And that's what we do in our AI communities. We're like, okay, guys, what is the actual problem? Right?
Mm,
What's the problem you're trying to fix? Now, how do you fix it? Now, is ChatGPT right? Or do I need to go out and build the video? Or do I need to go out and cut something up? And just put that together. So it's digging into this whole piece of, yeah, this tool is going to change everything. I said to you beforehand that I wanted to really come back to one point on AI,
yeah.
and then the main point for me on AI is so many people I speak to think AI is going to make me dumb. Okay,
Mm,
yeah, and AI is just I'm not gonna think as much, I don't have to do anything, it's just for me, it's entirely the opposite. AI has
mm,
put me on fire, yeah, it really has, because now I have sitting at my fingertips 1,000 experts in any field in the world I want. I don't need to know all the things about that. Beforehand, I did Cisco, I was a Cisco engineer, I had to learn how to do Cisco stuff, so I had to go and read all the books and learn everything and get it all right, okay? Yeah, I knew what a router was, but then I had to go and dig, 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 dig. Yeah. Now I can know what a router is and say, I want you to be a Cisco engineer and I want you to help me code this and this. Just by knowing that one piece. I get that out. It's out of my mouth. I don't have to type it out. Yeah, and then that allows me free time. When you get things out of your head, as a business owner, I have 10 different things going on at the moment. I get up in the morning, I bring on ChatGPT, and I say, "Hey Chad, how you doing?" I call him Chad. Yeah, "Hey Chad, how you doing? Yeah, I want you to just help me. I've got a bunch of things in my brain at the moment. I need you to just prioritize them for me." Yeah, and then I go through, and I just brain dump. Yeah, no order, no anything, just as it comes into my head. Right, okay, you got that, right. Now you know what my goals are, you know what my vision is. What do I need to do today,
mm,
from that list? What do I need to put into a future task list? Okay. And they said, "Okay, I want you to ask me a few more questions if there's any clarification points you need to know." Right, okay, and we talk, and we literally have a back and forth conversation, right?
mm,
Using the voice one. Yeah, and then I get to, start my day, and it's out of my head. So now I've got
yeah.
space. Yeah, and now I've got space to, yeah, and that's just I've done 6 years worth of work in 6 months. Yeah, and I know how to work hard. I know how to put the hours in. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in that same 6 months, I've been to Mexico, I've been to, Iceland, I've been to Switzerland, yeah, and other places in Europe, yeah, and I've been to Seattle, yeah, so I'm living the life I love, and AI is allowing me to do that, and it's turning, like, putting my brain to be a supercomputer. Yeah, so there's all these kind of things, and that's what I wanna give to other people. I wanna help people understand, that there's the way you can do it. And it's not easy. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes systems, it takes all these things. Yeah, but the Nachi system, the Nachi operating system, you guys do awesome work, right? It's amazing, and it's the only tool out there that comes close to, perfection. I think it's amazing. Yeah. The coaches that I work with and boss up, yeah, they're awesome as well, and we're just yeah, it's gonna be such a power well, it is already such a powerful team, and under Scott Evans. And, I think there's just yeah, this whole driving force behind, Mark's very much about this, Mark Evans. It's very much about this. Yeah, business owners are awesome. We need the right tools. But also, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, look after your staff. So that's the kind of organization I want to be working with, and that's why
Yeah.
when I saw, that you had the partnership piece up, and then you introduced me to Scott, I was like, yeah, that's awesome. That's what I wanted. So it's been a really, really awesome kind of yeah journey, and it's just helped me solidify so many things in my plan. So thank you. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Man, this has been great. We have dove deep and I love it. I am not a superficial surface level person, so I love when we can go deep. Tell me this. I always like to ask guests a couple questions on the tail end. If you could go back and with all the knowledge and experience that you've gained as a business coach, pulling from all sorts of what you've learned, what advice would you give yourself as rookie Roy just starting out in business coaching specifically?
Talk to your customers as people. Yeah. Understand their pains, understand their challenges. Yeah. Don't walk in with solutions until you know a whole bunch more about the situation because you never know what's actually going on. Right. Really, really dig in deep before you go out and start saying, I know how to fix your problem. Because there's nothing more disrespectful than that. When somebody walks in the door and says, I can help you fix your problem, and they haven't heard you. Yeah. And you haven't been heard. Yeah. So I would
Yeah.
say it's, yeah. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad always said people are far more complex than our overly simplistic perception of them. And I love that. It's so
Yeah.
true. Whether
100%.
that's personally or professionally, right?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
we're a lot more complex. And so I think that speaks directly to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I always like to ask is what is a lesson that you're in the middle of learning in this current moment?
Right now, marketing is changing at such a pace. Yeah, and I've spent thousands of hours, uh, multiples of thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of pounds, really coming to grips with how to market to the new world of AI, to the new world of business owners, to the new world of solutions out there. SEO is dying a death. YouTube is having a rise. And there's a range of these things that yeah, you can't do Facebook ads the same way. Email campaigns are a different thing again. So this whole business play is different. There's some amazing tools coming out, but you have to dig in to learn. And I think that's a journey that keeps on growing, but and will always be there, I guess, from a marketing point of view. But definitely, my IT companies were bringing me 3 or 4 leads per week per company because of the top of Google for them, and that just ran for a while, right? And obviously not all of those are brilliant, and now they're right down to a lot less. So now we have to change, and for me, that's a journey I'm in the middle of at the moment. How do I? And I do it for myself, right? So I go out, I do it. I'm learning Facebook. I'm learning these things in different ways, and I'm getting knowledge. And yeah, I love the acquisition of knowledge. If you can keep on acquiring knowledge, then you never get bored. So yeah, so that's what one of them right now.
We'd call that one of the what we believe one of the core competencies of being a good coach is mastery. So that pursuit of never being satisfied and always trying to acquire more knowledge and wisdom. You're a testament to that. So, and I love that about you specifically. So, let's say, I mean, if someone wants to get in touch with you, maybe they want to learn more about maybe some of the communities, or maybe want to pick your brain on some things. What's the best place to get in touch with you?
Get in touch with me at Roy at allthepower.co.uk. On LinkedIn is a great shout as well. So you always reach out on LinkedIn. Don't just do a connection request. Give me a message. Tell me who you are. Right? Yeah. And allthepower.co.uk is a website. So yeah, that's the best place at the moment.
We'll link all that out in the show notes to make sure people have it really clear. Roy is a great follow on LinkedIn, a connection. Make sure to send a message. But he cranks out some really great content on all of the things we've talked about today. So, but thank you, Roy, for coming on. I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you as a human, and I am appreciative of our friendship. And so, I am looking forward to continuing that into the future. But and thank you for listening. We love business coaches. We love seeing successful coaches like Roy who have grown their practice and are taking things seriously about being an ambitious coach, really diving in and becoming masters of their craft. So, if you're interested in learning more, please get in touch with us. We have a wealth of knowledge and resources that we can connect you with. We can also connect you with incredible coaches like Roy. So, thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day. Take care. That's it for today's episode of the Ambitious Coach Lab. My hope is that something here helps you sharpen your craft and keep building a coaching practice you're proud of. Before we wrap, a quick thank you to our sponsor, 90. If you're coaching leadership teams, having your clients run their entire world in 90 truly elevates your work. Vision, rocks, scorecards, issues, it all lives in one centralized place. The clarity keeps your clients aligned between sessions and makes every conversation you have with them more focused and more impactful. I've used 90 with over 500 leadership teams, and I can tell you it makes great companies better and great coaches even more effective. Feel free to use promo code AC20 for 20% off. Again, that's AC20 for 20% off. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Cam, cheering you on as you grow your ambitious coaching practice. We'll see you next time.